Now we also see these large heads, and this is actually a plaster head, probably from a different figure, or a head separated from its body. And this is found in a Mycenean home, which is unusual because this is actually a life-size head. A life-size head that always reminded me of someone else. I'm sure it'll come to mind when I'm going through this. But this is very rare for its time period. It probably belonged to an equally large body, quite possibly an armature. And we had this before with the female head of Inanna, where you have a head and then you would have a wooden armature that you would dress so it would look like the god or goddess. The head is argued to be a woman or a goddess, maybe even a sphinx of some form, because the Greeks saw the sphinx as this very tricky, sort of evil character. This could be an example of a monumental cult statue, although it would be unusual to find it in a home. And we believe it's a female based on the very light skin as well as the makeup, but it could be an early variation of a certain 90s theme. Just saying. They look similar. Now they're also creating vases, and we have the warrior vase. Sorry, wrong warriors. There we go. We have the warrior's vase, which depicts a frieze of heavily armed soldiers who appear to be marching off to war, but they look like caricatures all of a sudden. It's sort of like the artwork has taken a dive. And art usually follows the civilization. So, as we look at a civilization, usually it starts out somewhere. If I create a little horrible, rather really horrible chart here, civilization will start down here, it slowly builds, and then it will plateau at some point, and then it will start into its decline. And we see this for most civilizations. Here, the artwork is getting better, sort of like the Old Kingdom in Egypt. Here, the artwork is at a sustained level. We know what to expect. And then we see the artwork as the society falls, the artwork's quality falls as well, because the artists are concentrating on other things. They're concentrating on things like surviving or being forced to serve in the military. So we're seeing the same thing here. These men seem to be marching off to war. Given the date, it may be war with the Sea People. The woman on the left is bidding them farewell. Her hand on her head is a gesture of grief, as if she's expecting that they won't be returning. There is no setting, there is no landscape, and the figures are all identical, giving us a sense of rhythm, that sort of army marching down the street in formation, but not giving us a sense of individual identity. This is also much less dynamic than other things we've seen, for example, the bull leaping fresco or the harvester's vase. Instead, this is a very static image. These people could be moving, but they could also just be standing very, very awkwardly. So this gives us that idea that this is a civilization in the wane, a civilization that is falling as we continue on. And in fact, it is exactly that. Everyone falls here. It's about 1200 BCE. This is when the Sea People come in. This is an Egyptian depiction of, I believe it's Ramses III, defending the Egyptian people against the Sea People. They're the only people, the Egyptians are the only people who will survive this. Everyone else, the Hittites, the Myceneans, the Minoans, the Assyrians suffer to some degree. Many of these societies will fall. It will allow other societies to develop. So it's not entirely bad, but we still don't know anything about these Sea People except that they bring an end to all of these civilizations. It also brings an end to the Bronze Age. As we re-enter and we start with the Greeks in the next chapter, we're firmly in the Iron Age. In other words, man is now working with iron. which is a far more effective tool both for warfare, but also for creating artwork, creating sculptures, and generally creating a civilization.